as you settle into your favorite armchair, a well-worn copy of The Barefoot Investor by Scott Pape in hand. You can't help but feel a mix of hope and skepticism. You've tried financial advice books before, but they always left you feeling overwhelmed and, frankly, a bit bored. But there's something different about this one. Maybe it's the catchy title, or perhaps it's the no-nonsense Australian approach. Whatever it is, you decide to give it a shot. You open the book and begin to read. Suddenly, you're transported to a small farm in rural Australia. It's a peaceful scene, with rolling hills and grazing sheep. But wait, what's that smell? Is that smoke? Your heart races as you realize you're now in Scott Pape's shoes, watching helplessly as his family farm burns to the ground. Everything he and his wife have worked for, gone in an instant. It's a nightmare scenario that hits close to home. After all, how many of us are just one disaster away from financial ruin? But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Instead of wallowing in despair, Scott sees this tragedy as a chance to start over, to rebuild not just his farm, but his entire approach to money, and he wants to take you along for the ride. As you delve deeper into the book, you realize this isn't your typical dry financial advice. Scott's writing style is refreshingly down to earth, like chatting with a wise friend over a cold beer. He doesn't talk down to you or use confusing jargon. Instead, he shares relatable stories and practical tips that make you think, hey, I could actually do this. You find yourself chuckling as Scott introduces his Barefoot Steps, a series of simple, actionable strategies to get your finances in order. It's like he's handing you a map to buried treasure, except the treasure is financial freedom, and the map is surprisingly easy to follow. One of the first steps catches your eye, the splurge account. Finally, someone who understands that saving money doesn't have to mean living like a monk. Scott encourages you to set aside some guilt-free spending money each month. It's a small change, but it feels revolutionary. You start to imagine the possibilities. Maybe that weekend getaway isn't so out of reach after all. As you read on, you're introduced to the concept of mojo, not just a groovy 60s term, but Scott's name for an emergency fund. You've heard about emergency funds before, but the way Scott explains it makes so much sense. It's not just about having a safety net, it's about having peace of mind. You start to feel a little lighter, imagining the weight that would lift off your shoulders if you had a healthy mojo account. The book takes an interesting turn as Scott delves into the world of superannuation, that's Australian for retirement savings. You've always found this topic mind-numbingly dull, but somehow Scott makes it engaging. He breaks it down in a way that's easy to understand, and suddenly you're seeing your retirement in a whole new light. It's not just a far-off concept anymore, it's a goal you can actively work towards. You find yourself nodding along as Scott tackles the topic of debt. His approach is refreshingly straightforward. Crush your debts, starting with the smallest. It's called the domino strategy, and it makes so much sense. You start to feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe those credit card bills aren't as insurmountable as they seem. As you flip through the pages, you come across Scott's advice on buying a home. It's a topic that's always filled you with anxiety. How could you ever afford it? But Scott's step-by-step approach makes it seem possible. He doesn't sugarcoat it. It'll take work and sacrifice. But for the first time, you start to believe that homeownership might be within your reach. The book takes an unexpected detour into relationship territory. Scott emphasizes the importance of getting on the same financial page as your partner. You think about the money arguments you've had in the past and realize how much stress could have been avoided if you'd had these conversations earlier. Mental note: time for a heart-to-heart with your significant other. You're surprised to find yourself engrossed in a section about insurance. Who knew insurance could be interesting? But the way Scott explains it, it's not just about ticking boxes, it's about protecting what matters most. You start to reevaluate your own coverage, wondering if you're truly prepared for life's curveballs. The book takes on a more serious tone as Scott discusses legacy planning. It's not the most comfortable topic, but you appreciate his honesty. He shares a touching story about his own family that brings home the importance of having your affairs in order. It's sobering, but also empowering. You realize that taking control of your finances isn't just about you, it's about securing a better future for your loved ones. As you near the end of the book, you come across Scott's Barefoot Date Nights concept. It's a simple idea: regular check-ins with your partner to discuss your financial goals and progress. You smile, imagining turning budget discussions into a fun evening out. Who says money talk has to be boring? The final chapters of the book feel like a pep talk from a trusted coach. Scott reminds you that building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be setbacks and challenges, but with persistence and the right strategy, you can achieve your financial goals. You feel a surge of motivation, ready to put these lessons into action. As you close the book, you realize something has changed. The world of finance, which once seemed like an impenetrable fortress, now feels conquerable. You have a roadmap, a plan of attack. It won't be easy, but for the first time in a long while, you feel hopeful about your financial future. You set the book down, your mind buzzing with ideas. The barefoot steps are clear in your mind, and you're itching to get started. You glance at your phone, tempted to check your bank balance right then and there. But instead, you take a deep breath. This is a journey, you remind yourself, not a quick fix. As you reflect on what you've read, you realize that The Barefoot Investor isn't just about money. It's about taking control of your life, about aligning your spending with your values. It's about creating a future where you're not just surviving, but thriving. You think back to Scott's story, how he rebuilt from the ashes of his farm. If he could do that, surely you can tackle your own financial challenges. You feel a newfound sense of empowerment, like you've been let in on a secret that's been hiding in plain sight all along. The next morning, you wake up with a sense of purpose. You brew your coffee at home instead of buying it out a small start, but it feels significant. As you sip your homemade brew, you start to plan your first barefoot date night. You chuckle, imagining your partner's reaction when you suggest a romantic evening of budgeting. Over the next few weeks, you start to implement Scott's advice. You set up your bank accounts according to his barefoot banking system. It feels strange at first, like trying on a new pair of shoes, but gradually it starts to feel more comfortable. You find yourself becoming more mindful of your spending, more intentional with your money. You tackle your debts with renewed vigor, inspired by the domino strategy. Each small victory feels huge, like you're reclaiming pieces of your financial freedom. You start to understand what Scott meant by mojo. There's a newfound confidence in knowing you're prepared for whatever life throws your way. Your partner is skeptical at first, but as they see the changes in your attitude and your bank balance, they start to come around. Your barefoot date nights become a regular thing, and to your surprise, you both start to look forward to them. There's something exciting about working towards shared goals, about building a future together. Months pass, and you start to see real progress. Your debts are shrinking, your savings are growing, and you're even starting to think about investments. You catch yourself using terms like diversification and compound interest in casual conversation. Who are you, and what have you done with the financially clueless person you used to be? But it's not all smooth sailing. There are setbacks, unexpected expenses, moments of weakness where you splurge on things you don't need. But unlike before, these setbacks don't derail you completely. You dust yourself off and get back on track, remembering Scott's words about persistence and playing the long game. You start to notice changes beyond your bank balance. You're sleeping better at night, no longer lying awake worrying about bills. Your relationships improve as money stress becomes less of an issue. You even find yourself turning down overtime at work, not because you don't need the money, but because you value your time more now that you have a handle on your finances. As you approach the 1-year mark of your barefoot journey, you decide to calculate your net worth. You're nervous. What if you haven't made as much progress as you think? But as you crunch the numbers, a smile spreads across your face. You're not a millionaire yet, but you're undeniably moving in the right direction. You think back to that day when you first picked up The Barefoot Investor, feeling hopeless about your financial situation. If only you could go back and tell yourself that everything was about to change. But then again, maybe the journey itself is the point. You've learned so much, not just about money, but about yourself. You realize that financial freedom isn't just about having a certain amount in your bank account. It's about having options, about being able to live life on your own terms. It's about sleeping soundly at night, knowing you're prepared for whatever tomorrow brings. And thanks to a straight-talking Aussie and his barefoot wisdom, you're well on your way to that freedom. As you look to the future, you feel a sense of excitement. There's still so much to learn, so many goals to achieve. But now, you have the tools and the confidence to tackle them. You're no longer a passive observer in your financial life, you're in the driver's seat, charting your own course. You pick up The Barefoot Investor again, flipping through the dog-eared pages. It's funny how a book can change your life. But then again, maybe it wasn't just the book. Maybe it was you, finally ready to take control of your financial destiny. Either way, you're grateful for the journey and excited for what's to come. As you set the book down, you can't help but smile. You may not be barefoot, but you're definitely on your way to becoming an investor in your future, in your dreams, and in yourself. And really, isn't that what true wealth is all about?